What happens when a Hollywood icon known for quiet grace walks into a studio built for loud opinions? And one question turns into an emotional fault line no one expected. Before we go any further, subscribe to Stage View, hit like, and drop a comment right now, because stories like this don't just unfold, they erupt. The studio lights were already hot when Nicole Kidman took her seat. Not the polite warmth of a late-night couch, but the sharper glow of daytime television, where every blink is measured and every silence feels louder than applause. The familiar theme music faded, the applause rolled in waves, and for a moment everything looked exactly as it always did. Smiles, nods, the practiced rhythm of the view. But something was off. Nicole felt it before anyone spoke. She had walked red carpets her entire life, stood before judges at Cannes, accepted Oscars with a steady voice even when her hands trembled. Yet here, perched at the table with her back straight and her legs crossed just so, her chest felt tight. Not fear. Something heavier. Anticipation mixed with old memory. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair, eyes sharp behind her glasses, scanning Nicole with that unmistakable mix of curiosity and challenge. Joy wasn't hostile. She never was at first, but she was alert, waiting, like someone who already knew where she wanted the conversation to go. "Nicole," Whoopi began smoothly, "it's so good to have you back." Nicole smiled, that familiar controlled smile, the one perfected over decades. "It's wonderful to be here." The audience clapped again, but Nicole noticed the pause between beats. She noticed everything. Sunny Hostin glanced down at her notes. Sarah Haynes leaned forward, eager. Alyssa Farah Griffin adjusted her mic. "Enjoy." Joy tilted her head slightly, lips pursed, as if holding a thought she'd been polishing all morning. They talked first about the film, the performance, the transformation. Nicole spoke with elegance, choosing her words carefully, her Australian accent softening every sentence. She talked about vulnerability, about living inside another woman's skin. The audience nodded along. This was familiar territory. Safe. Too safe. Joy interjected casually. "You've always taken on roles that push emotional boundaries." Nicole nodded. "I'm drawn to complexity. To stories that—" "But," Joy cut in, raising a finger gently, "you also come from a place of incredible privilege. And some people feel that when stars talk about pain, it rings a little hollow." The word landed heavier than Joy intended, or maybe exactly as intended. There was a ripple through the audience. A few murmurs. Nicole didn't answer right away. She inhaled, slow and measured, eyes flicking briefly toward Whoopi, then back to Joy. "I don't think pain has a price tag," Nicole said carefully. "Grief doesn't check your bank account before it shows up." Joy smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Sure. But when you speak about struggle, people listening are thinking about their rent, their healthcare, their kids. And they're wondering if it's the same thing." Nicole felt it then, that familiar tightening behind the eyes. The same feeling she'd had years ago, standing alone in a house that echoed too loudly after the doors closed. The same feeling she had when the world assumed her life was a fairy tale because it looked good from far away. "I've lost people," Nicole said, her voice still steady but quieter now. "I've lived through things I don't often talk about." Joy leaned forward. "But do you think celebrities sometimes center themselves in conversations that aren't really about them?" The studio went still. Even the cameras seemed to pause. Whoopi shifted in her chair. "All right, let's—" "No, it's okay," Nicole said quickly. Too quickly. She straightened, her hands now clasped tightly on the table. "I think we can talk about this." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Then let's talk about it." The audience leaned in as one organism. Nicole's smile was gone now. Not replaced with anger, something more fragile. "When I talk about emotional pain," she said, "I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm trying to connect. To say that no matter where you're from, loss finds you." Joy nodded slowly. "But connection requires awareness. And sometimes celebrities forget how powerful their voice already is." That word, powerful, stung. Nicole let out a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "You think I forget?" Joy shrugged. "I think Hollywood forgets." A murmur. A sharp intake of breath from someone in the front row. Sunny looked up now, fully engaged. Sarah's mouth opened slightly, then closed. Nicole blinked. "Once. Twice." "I didn't grow up wealthy," Nicole said, her voice cracking just a hair before she caught it. "I didn't come from Hollywood. I worked. I clawed my way through an industry that doesn't forgive women for aging, for speaking, for surviving." Joy crossed her arms. And yet you're one of the most powerful women in that industry. Nicole nodded. Now, yes, after decades, after being dismissed, after being reduced to someone's wife, after being told my career was over before it truly began. That last sentence landed like glass. The audience reacted audibly now, gasps, whispers, applause that tried to break through but didn't quite know when it was allowed. Joy's expression shifted. Not softer. More serious. You're talking about Tom Cruise, Joy said plainly. Nicole stiffened. The name hovered in the air, uninvited. I'm talking about myself, Nicole replied. Joy didn't back down. Because for a long time, the public narrative was that you were protected. Shielded. That everything was handed to you. Nicole's hands trembled. She pulled them apart, placing her palms flat on the table as if grounding herself. That narrative erased me, she said. It erased my voice, my choices, my pain. Whoopi finally stepped in. Okay, let's take a breath here. But the moment had passed that point. Everyone could feel it. Joy sighed. I'm not questioning that you felt pain. I'm questioning whether celebrities always recognize the space they take up when they speak about it. Nicole's eyes glistened now, unmistakably. The camera caught it. Zoomed in. No escape. I recognize it every day, Nicole said softly. That's why I choose my words so carefully. That's why I stay silent more often than I speak. Joy paused. For the first time, she hesitated. And yet you're speaking now, Joy said. Yes, Nicole replied. Because silence didn't protect me before. The audience broke then, applause, loud and conflicted. Some stood. Some clapped cautiously. The energy fractured. Nicole swallowed hard, her composure hanging by a thread. She could feel the weight of years pressing forward, memories she hadn't planned to carry onto this stage. Joy looked at her, really looked at her, and for a split second the sharpness faded. But the tension didn't. Because once you open a door like that on live television, it doesn't close easily. And Nicole Kidman had just stepped through. The applause lingered too long, then fell away in uneven pockets, like rain that couldn't decide whether to stop. Nicole felt exposed in the silence that followed, as if the studio lights had brightened just for her. She kept her chin lifted, but inside, something had cracked open that she hadn't planned to show. Whoopi cleared her throat. All right, she said gently, the practiced calm of someone who had seen television moments spiral before. Let's just slow this down. Joy exhaled, a short breath through her nose. I'm not trying to attack you, Nicole. I know, Nicole said, though the words came out thinner than she intended. But the truth was more complicated. Nicole knew Joy wasn't attacking her personally. Joy was challenging the idea of her. The symbol. The polished figure people thought they understood. And somehow that felt worse. Sunny leaned forward now, voice measured but sharp. I think what Joy is getting at, she said, is that when celebrities speak about pain, there's a responsibility. Because people listening may not have the same resources to heal. Nicole turned toward Sunny, grateful for the shift, but the pressure didn't ease. I agree, she said. Completely. But pain isn't healed by money alone. Joy tilted her head. It sure helps. A few laughs rippled through the audience, nervous, uncertain. Nicole smiled reflexively, then stopped herself. She didn't want to hide behind charm anymore. Not now. Joy, Nicole said, choosing the name deliberately. Do you think suffering is only valid if it looks a certain way? Joy stiffened slightly. No, I think suffering is universal. But I think context matters. Nicole nodded. Then let me give you mine. The room shifted. Cameras adjusted. A producer somewhere behind the scenes leaned forward in their chair. For years, Nicole began, I felt like my identity had been reduced to something digestible. Something simple. I was the wife. The accessory. The quiet one. Joy's lips pressed together. She didn't interrupt this time. And when that chapter ended, Nicole continued, her voice steady but low, I didn't just lose a marriage. I lost my footing. My sense of self. I lost children I wasn't allowed to talk about. I lost a voice people assumed I never had. A collective inhale swept through the studio. Sunny's eyes widened. Sarah looked down, visibly uncomfortable. Alyssa shifted again, her posture tense. Joy blinked. You're saying you were silenced? Yes, Nicole said simply. Publicly. Privately. Legally. That word landed hard. Joy glanced briefly toward Whoopi, then back. But you rebuilt. You thrived. Eventually, Nicole said. After years of being told my feelings were inconvenient. The audience murmured again, this time louder. A woman in the second row wiped at her eyes. A man crossed his arms, conflicted. Joy leaned back, folding her hands in her lap. I hear you, she said. But can you understand why some people feel disconnected when someone with your platform speaks about hardship? Nicole nodded. I can understand resentment. I can understand exhaustion. What I struggle with is the idea that pain should be ranked. Joy's jaw tightened. No one's ranking pain. We're questioning perspective. Nicole let out a breath she'd been holding. Perspective is shaped by experience. And mine wasn't as protected as people think. There it was, the unspoken accusation hanging between them, that the public version of Nicole Kidman was incomplete. Sanitized. Joy's voice softened, but only slightly. Do you think Hollywood sells a fantasy that ends up hurting real conversations? Yes, Nicole said without hesitation. And I think women pay the price for that fantasy more than anyone. A few sharp claps broke out before quickly stopping. Nicole continued, emboldened now. We're expected to be grateful, to smile, to not complicate things with truth. Joy raised an eyebrow. And you're saying you were punished for complicating things? I was ignored, Nicole replied, which is its own kind of punishment. The studio fell quiet again. Even Whoopi didn't jump in. Joy sighed, rubbing her temple. I've been doing this a long time. I've watched celebrities come on this show and frame themselves as victims when they're not. Nicole met her gaze, unwavering. And I've watched women be dismissed because their pain didn't look the way people wanted it to. That landed differently. The audience reacted audibly, some applause, some murmurs of agreement, a few disapproving sighs. Joy shook her head. This isn't personal. Nicole's voice trembled just enough to be human. It always is. The words hung between them, fragile and heavy. Whoopi finally leaned in. I think what's happening here, she said carefully, is that we're touching on something bigger than either of you. Joy nodded reluctantly. Maybe. Sunny added, this is about who gets to speak and how. Nicole's eyes glistened again, but she didn't look away this time. And when, she said, when it's allowed. Joy studied her for a long moment. The edge in her expression dulled, replaced by something closer to reflection. Joy said slowly, I came up in a time where women had to fight just to be heard. And sometimes when I see Hollywood pain, I worry it drowns out voices that still can't get a microphone. Nicole nodded, genuinely this time. That's a fair fear. Joy blinked, surprised by the lack of defensiveness. But silencing me doesn't amplify them, Nicole added quietly. It just creates more silence. The audience reacted strongly now, applause that didn't hesitate. Someone shouted, yes, from the back. Joy looked out at the crowd, then back at Nicole. You're very good with words. Nicole smiled sadly. I've had to be. Joy leaned forward again, elbows on the table. Let me ask you something honestly. Nicole braced herself. Okay, do you think the industry ever used your vulnerability as a brand? Nicole didn't answer immediately. Her eyes drifted somewhere beyond the studio, to another time, another version of herself. Yes, she said finally. And I let it happen because I didn't know how else to survive. That admission shifted everything. The room felt heavier now, but also quieter. More attentive. The tension hadn't disappeared, it had transformed. Joy nodded slowly. That I can respect. Nicole's shoulders relaxed just a fraction. But then Joy added, what I still struggle with is how that story lands for someone who doesn't get a second chance. Nicole swallowed. I don't have an answer for that, she said honestly. All I can do is tell the truth of my experience and hope it resonates instead of replaces. Joy considered this. Outside the studio, clips were already being cut, tweets drafted, opinions formed in real time. Inside, two women sat across from each other, neither willing to fully retreat, neither willing to completely attack. And Nicole could feel it. This conversation wasn't de-escalating. It was deepening. Because once pain is named out loud, it demands to be reckoned with. The air felt heavier now, like the studio itself was holding its breath. Nicole could hear the faint hum of the lights above, the quiet shuffling of feet in the audience, the subtle click of a camera adjusting focus. Everything felt magnified, stretched thin by the truth that had already been spoken. Joy broke the silence first. Her voice was lower now, less performative. She said, when you sit where I sit long enough, you start to see patterns. Pain becomes a language people learn to speak fluently because it sells. Nicole nodded slowly. And sometimes, she replied, it's the only language people will listen to. That answer caught Joy off guard. She didn't interrupt. Nicole leaned forward slightly, her elbows hovering just above the table, hands loosely clasped. I didn't come here today to tell a sad story, she said. I came to talk about work. But work, for me, has always been survival. Joy tilted her head. Survival from what? Nicole hesitated. The pause was long enough that the audience shifted in their seats. From being erased, Nicole said. From becoming a footnote in someone else's story. Joy exhaled through her nose. You're talking about being married to someone more powerful than you. I'm talking about being married to a narrative, Nicole corrected gently. One that didn't leave room for contradiction. Sunny leaned in again. That's an important distinction. Nicole glanced at her, grateful, then back to Joy. When that narrative cracked, she continued, the backlash was immediate. People wanted me to disappear quietly, to be grateful and gone. Joy's eyes narrowed. But you didn't disappear. No, Nicole said. I worked. A beat. Then another. Joy tapped her fingers lightly against the table. You keep coming back to work. Because it saved me, Nicole replied. It gave me control when I had none elsewhere. The audience applauded softly, instinctively, as if afraid to break the spell. Joy nodded slowly. I can understand that. Nicole's gaze sharpened. Can you? Joy met her eyes. I grew up without much. I fought to be heard. When I see someone with access to every door talk about being silenced, it challenges my understanding. Nicole's voice softened. Access doesn't equal agency. That line rippled through the studio. Even Whoopi raised her eyebrows. Joy repeated it quietly. Access doesn't equal agency. No, Nicole said. Sometimes it just means you're visible while being powerless. The audience reacted, this time louder, more unified. Applause surged, then faded. Joy held up a hand slightly, asking for space. Let me push back, she said. Because viewers at home are thinking, if someone like you felt powerless, what hope do the rest of us have? Nicole inhaled deeply. I don't want anyone to feel hopeless, she said. I want them to feel seen. Joy shook her head. But visibility isn't the same as solidarity. Nicole nodded. Agreed. The tension sharpened again, no longer raw but intellectual now. Two worldviews circling each other. Joy leaned forward. So, how do you use your platform responsibly? Nicole didn't answer right away. She looked out at the audience, then back at the panel. By not pretending I represent everyone, she said. By telling my story without claiming it's universal. Joy considered that. And by listening? Yes, Nicole said. Especially when the listening is uncomfortable. A murmur of approval spread. Joy sighed, rubbing her hands together. You know, this show was built on disagreement. Nicole smiled faintly. So was my career. That earned a surprised laugh from the audience. Short, sharp, real. Joy smiled despite herself. Touché. For the first time, the energy shifted. Not softer, but clearer. The clash was no longer about accusation. It was about reckoning. Sunny spoke again. I think what's resonating here is honesty, she said. Not performance. Nicole nodded. I'm tired of performing my pain. Joy looked at her closely. Then why talk about it publicly at all? Nicole's eyes glistened again, but this time she didn't blink it away. Because silence protects systems, not people. That line hit hard. Applause broke out, louder now, sustained. Joy leaned back, absorbing it. You're asking for a lot of grace from the public. Nicole shook her head. I'm asking for nuance. The audience applauded again, some standing now. Joy raised her voice slightly over the noise. And what about accountability? Nicole turned toward her. Hold me accountable for what I do, not for what people assume I have. Joy nodded slowly. That's fair. A pause settled between them. Not hostile. Heavy with mutual recognition. Whoopi glanced at the clock, then back at the table. We're almost out of time. A collective groan came from the audience. Joy chuckled dryly. Of course we are. Nicole smiled, but it was bittersweet. She could feel the moment slipping away, unresolved. Joy looked at her one last time before the break. You know, Nicole, I still don't agree with you on everything. Nicole met her gaze. I wouldn't trust you if you did. That earned real laughter, louder, freer. But beneath the humor, the core tension remained. Because what had started as a question about celebrity pain had turned into something deeper. Who gets to define truth, and who pays the price for speaking it? As the cameras pulled back slightly, and the producers signaled the final seconds, Nicole felt the weight of what she'd said settling in. This wasn't going to end when the show did. It was only about to get louder. The applause at the end of the segment didn't sound triumphant. It sounded conflicted, uneven. like a room full of people trying to decide what they had just witnessed in real time. Nicole stood as the cameras cut to commercial, her smile returning automatically, professionally. But it didn't reach her eyes. She adjusted her jacket, nodded politely to the audience, and leaned in to thank Whoopi under her breath. Joy removed her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose as if the conversation had left a physical mark. The red light blinked off. And just like that, the studio exhaled. But the moment didn't disappear. It thickened. Audience members whispered to each other as they filed out, phones already glowing in their hands. Some looked shaken, some energized, some quietly triumphant, as if they had just seen something rare, truth breaking through performance. A woman near the aisle shook her head and said, "That was real." Another muttered, "Joy went too far." Someone else replied, "No, she didn't go far enough." Nicole walked backstage slowly, every step heavier than the last. She could feel it now, the delayed emotional impact she'd learned to anticipate. On stage, adrenaline had kept her upright. Back here, it drained fast. A producer touched her arm gently. "You okay?" Nicole nodded. "I will be." Down the hall, Joy stood with a small cluster of staffers, her voice low but animated. She gestured once with her hand, emphatic, then paused, listening. Her face was unreadable. Not regretful. Not satisfied. Thoughtful. Within minutes, the clips were live. The internet did what it always does. It chose sides. Nicole Kidman shuts down Joy Behar on live TV. Joy Behar calls out celebrity privilege. Nicole Kidman responds. Emotional clash leaves the View audience stunned. Short clips circulated without context. Longer ones followed, dissected frame by frame. Nicole's trembling hands. Joy's pause before responding. The moment Nicole said silence didn't protect her. On social media, the divide sharpened. Some hailed Nicole as brave. Honest. Finally saying what so many women in Hollywood couldn't. They quoted her lines like scripture, overlaying them on black and white photos, dramatic music swelling underneath. Others accused her of centering herself again, of using vulnerability as armor, of proving Joy's point without realizing it. Joy trended too. Supporters praised her for saying what many were thinking, for challenging power instead of flattering it, for refusing to let celebrity pain eclipse everyday struggle. Critics called her cold, dismissive, unfair. And somewhere in between, a quieter group of viewers said something else entirely. Two women telling the truth from different places. This is what real conversation looks like. Uncomfortable, but necessary. Nicole sat in the back of a car hours later, city lights streaking past the window. Her phone buzzed endlessly, face down on the seat beside her. Messages from friends, from colleagues, from people she hadn't heard from in years. She didn't read them. Instead, she stared out at the night, replaying the moment Joy had asked if celebrities ever forgot the space they took up. Replaying her own answer. Wondering if she'd said too much. Or not enough. Across town, Joy Behar poured herself a drink and turned on the television, watching the rerun of the segment with the sound low. She studied her own expressions this time. The pauses, the interruptions, the rare moments of hesitation. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. The next day, headlines softened. Think pieces appeared. Cultural critics weighed in. Psychologists analyzed the exchange. Feminist writers argued with each other in long threads. Morning radio shows debated who won. Neither woman responded publicly. And that silence spoke volumes. Because what had happened on that stage wasn't a victory or a defeat. It was a collision. Two lived realities crashing into each other under studio lights, without a script to soften the edges. For some viewers, it was uncomfortable to watch. For others, it felt overdue. And for Nicole Kidman, it marked something subtle but irreversible. A moment where she stopped performing resilience and simply stood inside it, unprotected. The applause faded. The cameras moved on. But the question lingered. Who gets to speak about pain? And who decides when it's too much? Now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Nicole finally heard, or did Joy ask the question no one else would? Drop your opinion in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe to Stage View for more explosive, emotional moments you won't see anywhere else.